Part 5 The Storm. The hottest places in hell are reserved for those who, in time of great moral crisis, maintain their neutrality. Dante Alighieri. Chapter 20 Death and Separation. December 2002. Despite Erik's concern, autumn passes without event. We are waiting to hear from the Federal District Court for decision on Erik's appeal, but the court remains quiet. Before Halloween, I take Talia to a farm where we select a few pumpkins. We hollow them out and carve faces. Talia exuberantly embraces every holiday. She laughs at how funny her carving of her pumpkin is turning out. For Christmas, my mom flies out to California. The seasons aren't celebrated in prison, except in the visiting room, where a small tree is erected. I think it would really bother Erik if he didn't get to help put up the tree. I enjoy watching him and Talia decorate the tree, and then we all take pictures in front of it. Most prisoners become depressed during the holiday season, and suicides and suicide attempts increase. A paper chain of Santa sleds is strung along the block office window, but of course, no stockings are hung, and Santa himself does not visit the prison. Frankly, I'm not surprised the prisoners get depressed. The Christmas holidays make me lonely too. I could blame it on the shocking commercialization of the season, my reclusive nature, or even the gloomy weather, but I think the truth is, I've never had a relationship that made my heart bubble with joy in the way the season seems to demand. Perhaps Christmas has always reminded me of what I didn't have, passionate love. Yet, despite all the bad memories, I find myself reluctantly growing to enjoy my Christmas experience with Erik. Sure, dancing mice in Santa suits and talking reindeers aren't the kind of thing I wait breathlessly for each year, but Erik's excitement is contagious. Erik's favorite time of the year is from mid-October until the new year. He sings mind-numbing Christmas songs to me over the telephone, and in chorus with Talia. He teaches her the words. He'll leave his radio on one of these stations that only play Christmas music. He tells me that if he was not in prison, I'd love the holiday season. He's probably right. One sweet thing that Erik has brought into Talia's life is Santa Mouse. According to Erik, Santa Mouse rides in the back of Santa's sleigh and hides tiny gifts in the branches of many children's Christmas trees. Of course, not every child receives a gift from Santa Mouse, and this has to be explained. Talia insists on it. Erik reveals that Santa Mouse only brings gifts to those children who believe in him. Somehow, Santa Mouse knows. Our high hopes for this incoming year are dashed almost immediately and in the most tragic ways. First, in early January, a friend of Erik's, a friend to many of the cell block, is found murdered in his cell. He had slowly bled to death from a knife wound. An investigation ensures. A pall hangs over the prisoners of the yard. Erik is in gloom. I am worried about him. The violence in prison is impossible to comprehend unless you have lived it. Developments only grow more ominous. Around the middle of January, Erik stops calling. I know immediately something is wrong. I call Sue, Doc's wife. She hasn't heard from Doc either. That relaxes me. I'm always worried when Erik misses his calls. I worry that it's because he's been hurt. But if Doc hasn't been able to call either, then this suggests a temporary lockdown of the entire prison. Lockdowns can occur over something as simple as a spoon being misplaced or stolen from food preparation. If the guards can't find a tray, well, that typically means high alert. As often as it happens, it is easy to be resentful about it. For my part, I sleep easier being aware of the two devastating events that have already struck. But the sand in my hourglass is rapidly thinning, and I will soon face both horrible truths. Not until Thursday would I learn that Erik had been thrown into the hole on charges of planning a prison escape. Leaving aside the fact that Erik has no intentions of attempting to break free from a maximum security prison, there is his general inability to keep anything a secret. But the charge is a deadly serious one in a level 4 prison population. There will be an investigation and a potentially protracted stay in administrative segregation, aka the hole, where many prisoners slowly lose their grip on reality. As terrible as the charges against Erik may be, even worse news arrives by way of a phone call Monday morning. There's been a tragedy in the family. Erik's cousin and closest childhood friend, the best man at our wedding, Andy, has passed away. He fell asleep and never woke up. He was only 29. The family is stunned and devastated. Erik doesn't know yet. He hasn't been able to call. Andy's death is going to crush him. Over the past 10 years, Erik has lost almost every one of his friends. He loved Andy. My eyes water just thinking about it. Although I'd only known Andy a few years, he accepted me as Erik's life partner and soulmate, and viewed me as his sister. And then there was the timing. It couldn't be a worse time for this news. I'm worried Erik will learn of Andy's death through the mail while alone in his cell. I need to be the one to gently break this to him so I can try to comfort him. I ask Lyle not to say anything in his letter to Erik. Nights pass and I sleep fitfully. I can hardly concentrate at work. I've been giving serious consideration to selling my local business anyway. My heart's not in it anymore. Every moment drags. Erik is my best friend. Not only has he dropped off the face of the earth, but now I also bear this horrible secret that is going to crush him. Every time the phone rings, I'm hoping it's Erik calling. Mid-Thursday is no different. But when I answer the phone, it's a news reporter, not Erik. He asked me to comment on the news that Erik has been placed in the hole, pending investigation by ISU for a conspiracy to escape. What? The reporter claims that 6 prisoners have been implicated. I'm almost too shocked to speak. Erik attempted to escape? That's absurd. I know Erik better than he knows himself. If he were ever considering such a stupid thing, I'd know about it before he would. He's never even expressed a desire. Where would he go? I have no comment to the reporter, of course. I suddenly have an explosive need to reach Erik, but nothing I can do is going to make that happen. My heart hurts. He must be so alone right now. How am I going to tell him about Andy from behind glass? I won't even be able to hold his hand when I tell him the news. Erik huddles in the corner of his bare cell. The confusion of events around him have clouded his mind and obscured even common, everyday knowledge, the kind of things most people take for granted. Staring out at a wall, the darkness will not let him see. A chill wraps itself around his bare feet, inching moment by moment further along the contours of his naked body. The chill that grabs hold only days before has offered few moments of reprieve. It sends minor shudders and convulsions through his torso, forcing him to pull his arms ever more tightly around his bent knees. Huddled in the center of the cell, the position of his body is the cross between a sprinter stretch and a man in a fetal position. His clothes have been stripped from him before he was taken to this place. He has nothing but an old basket and a mattress in the middle of an empty floor. This is a different kind of cell. No bunks, no desk, no chairs, no soap, no towel, no writing material, not even a book. When he first arrived, he'd asked for a Bible, assuming no man would deny the request. He was mistaken. That was 9 days ago. The cold has become worse since then. His mind flashes on images that are beginning to seem real to him, and he knows he needs to hold tightly to reality until some human contact, a guard, a meal, something, breaks through the growing fog of his mind. But for now, the only evidence of life is a high-pitched scream from an isolation cell several doors away. The scream startles him, but they also bring him back for a moment. He stills his body and listens for the familiar banging to begin, but it doesn't come. Instead, a hush permeates the corridor, like the fog seeping into his mind. Still, he waits. He has learned to wait in prison because waiting is the thing to do, a way to occupy the empty span of moments. After a few moments, he begins to rock gently back and forth on the ball of his feet. Another form of distraction. In fact, distraction has become his real focus at this point. His goal, if you will. Although crouched very close to the corner, he is careful not to touch the walls. Parts of the walls are still peppered with tiny bits of blood, feces, and food from the hasty cleanup after the last prisoner was removed. He does not know the man or what became of him. Too many men are brought here to really keep track. Oftentimes, they are heavily medicated, a substitute for the counseling that is rarely administered for their acute psychiatric conditions. These unknown travelers come and go, passively or in chains, day and night. Some are violent and some need to be segregated. Others want only to end their lives. Most are here because they have done little more than to draw the unwanted attention of men with power to place them in an isolation unit. When the cold is too much for him, Erik stands, exhausted and depleted. The simple act of standing, this minor exertion, spreads through his thighs. His movement is shaky, but his feet are steady on the cold, gritty floor. He steps forward and begins to pace, wall to wall, in circles around the room. His chill is eased by the movement, but only slightly. The cold air continues to steal heat from his body and penetrate the thin layer of his exposed skin. He cups his hand over his mouth and breathes into his palms to warm them. Hours pass, but daybreak is nowhere near, and when his efforts to beat the cold have failed, he gives in and decides to use the blanket he has avoided for days. Stooping before his mattress, he lifts the soiled and acritic blanket and lays it over his shoulders. The smell is so strong it burns his nostrils. He would do anything to put it down, but after days of resistance, he craves the heat more than he detests the smell. He decides to kneel and do the only thing he knows will release him. He prays. Inmates fall into many categories: those who were taught faith, those who find it behind bars, and those who loathe God and man and every other figure they can blame for their incarceration. Erik was taught faith, but he has also found it in prison. He prays hourly, mentally reciting the verses of his Christian education, at times speaking them aloud. He finds comfort in their familiarity, and while he is engaged in worship, he is also occupying himself. In forced isolation, Erik is experiencing what others have known since antiquity. Spiritual homage not only cleanses, it occupies and distracts the mind. 9 days before, 2 guards had appeared at Erik's cell door at 7 o'clock in the evening. They called him by his name and told him to step out of the cell. They slipped a set of handcuffs around his wrists and escorted him outside the building to a holding cage, a 2-foot square tall iron mesh box. No one would tell him what was happening, so he waited anxiously in the brutal cold and peered out at the dull electric orange glow that lit scattered portions of the yard. Eventually, a lieutenant arrived at his cage to formally read the charge. Confidential information has been provided which implicates you in a conspiracy to escape. The Investigation Service Unit will be conducting an investigation into this matter. Based on the information, your continued presence in the general population is considered a threat to the safety and security of the institution. Taken aback, Erik explained, "I'm not involved in any attempt to escape. It's not for me to determine. Yes, I heard you. ISU is in charge. They'll do the investigation." ISU is the prison's version of the secret police, a special investigative unit of hand-selected guards. The sight of them at your door is never good news. ISU officers are known for rushing into cells in the middle of the night and for carting off prisoners and even guards in handcuffs. For Erik, the nightmare had been looming for some time. The warning signs were all there. He had wanted to believe things would not escalate, that accountability and propriety would rule the day. But he knew better. As he left, the lieutenant told Erik that it could be a while before he would be taken to another cell. Erik stared out at the cold winter sky, black but peaceful. It was in utter contrast to the growing uncertainty within him. He sank to the floor in the cramped space and waited. His mind turned to me, his wife. He would not be able to communicate with me, and he did not know how many days or weeks would pass before I would learn the news from, of all people, a reporter. He also couldn't know that thousands of miles away, an entirely separate tragedy would strike his family. Another scream shattered the quiet, and Erik's eyes flashed open. He bolts upright on his mattress. He'd fallen asleep. He doesn't know how long. Thunder is booming. No, not thunder, just banging, pounding like a caged animal, hurling itself against an iron door. This will go on for a while. Erik closes his eyes again. These kinds of nightmare screams had become horribly familiar to him when he was in the Los Angeles County Jail. Often the outbursts came from emotional pain, and sometimes to physical pain. Rarely were the two distinguishable. He falls back on his mattress, but unlike before, sleep won't come back to him this night. His mind is not easily ignored. In fact, in solitude, it virtually controls him. Darting from image to event to memory, the chain of mental images slips through the years and into the long stretches of his incarceration. He pushes off the floor and paces until his thoughts come to rest on his wife. How will she hear the news, and how long will he be here? In administrative segregation. He has been kept in the hole for inhumane periods of time in the past. How many months will he sit and struggle to maintain his sanity this time? I quickly call the prison and confirm that Erik is in the hole. I just can't believe it. Then I make an appointment to visit him. Friday is booked solid, as it is Sunday. I'm lucky, there's been a cancellation for Saturday. I close my eyes. How are we going to bear this entire trauma happening at one time? I fall back on my bed. Helplessness sinks into me. Not once does it cross my mind that Erik is actually involved in an attempt to escape. I know Erik, and I'm getting to know this prison. Erik saw this coming. Why didn't I? Suddenly, I feel even more alone. I have no way to reach Erik, and no way to know what he's going through. I decide to call the reporter. If they want a story, I'll give them a story. After all, what an incredible coincidence that only a few months after the shakeup at ISU, Erik is now in the hole and the subject of a massive ISU investigation. And if that Barbara Walters interview hadn't brought enough unwanted attention to the prison, Erik's effort to create a ladder system, a system that would benefit prisoners and society alike, while unfortunately increasing the responsibilities of the prison administration. Well, that must have put Erik on a short list with the warden. No, I don't believe in coincidences. Erik has been marked for a while now. In his isolation, strip cell, Erik is completely segregated, cut off from contact with other prisoners and from the world. In his mind, hours meld into days that ultimately stretch into a single white blank. Then, one morning, guards come to take Erik to a regular segregation unit. He is huddled in the back corner of the cell. He shakes his head and refuses to leave. A lieutenant comes to the cell and encourages Erik not to make life hard on himself. Unshaven, unbathed, and naked, other than a smock, Erik looks a mess. He rarely sleeps, and he finds that he cannot stand without shaking. Yet, at that moment, he feels very free, miserably free. Erik can only smile at him. The lieutenant manages to keep a stern face. There is one man he once trusted to be straightforward with him. He asks to see the captain. Hours later, his request is granted. If you're innocent, you have nothing to hide, but your behavior is making you look guilty, the captain tells him. The captain claims not to believe Erik is guilty of the charge, but says the investigation must take its own course. Erik says, Captain, we both know ISU blames me for what happened last fall. I get that, but I also know I'm not guilty of attempted escape. If I were a prisoner, I know I'd want to escape, the captain says. The comment makes Erik pause. It's an unusual comment for a man who believes in his innocence, and suddenly he's no longer so sure of the captain. Walk in my shoes, he says. I think you'll feel differently. You don't want to be free? The captain asked. I have a family. I'm not giving them up by becoming a fugitive. Anyway, that's not the point. I didn't do anything. It's not possible for there to be any evidence against me. But that doesn't keep them from sending me here, storing me like a frozen side of beef in a meat locker. That's their payback? What other conclusion is there? The captain whitewashes the possibility that ISU resents Erik for the shakeup in their unit. Skeptical and reluctant for ISU to have the sole word, Erik settles on taking a polygraph. One last thing, Captain. You're not going to go announce this to the media, are you? Of course not. You're certain? Trust me. Why? It's happened before. What do you mean? Erik shakes his head. It was a long time ago. It's not important. Erik is then escorted back to the segregation unit. The next day, he is handcuffed, chained by the waist, legs shackled, and then taken to see the examiner. He insists the chains be removed, but it's overruled. After she refuses to perform the test under these conditions, Erik's waist chain is removed, but not his leg shackles. The polygraph examiner administers 5 separate tests to him over the next 3.5 hours. Erik passes. He was not involved. Along with passing the polygraph, no evidence had been found in his property or cell. Erik naturally assumes this means an end to the investigation, and that he'll soon be released from the hole. He is sadly mistaken. On Friday, he receives 2 letters from me and 1 from his brother. My letter was written before I'd known about his placement in the hole. I haven't heard from you. You must be on lockdown. I was lost today without you. All visits are canceled from your facility. I need to see you. I have to talk to you. Hopefully you will be off lockdown very soon. I just really need to talk to you. I was not going to tell him about Andy in the letter, although, heeding my wishes of not telling Erik about Andy through the mail, his brother's letter was less circumspect. Lyle wrote, Me again, Sunday night. It's a black day, devastating and deeply disheartening. Reminds us of the importance of brotherhood, of family, of love, the need for unity. I wish you were here. I feel wounded, helpless. I can't say more at this time. Life seems so unfair sometimes. And then he wrote a sad poem about brotherhood. It seemed a dramatic response to Erik being placed in the hole for this investigation. Then he read my letter. What made no sense was that my letter had been written at the same time as Lyle's, and yet I didn't know about the investigation yet. How could Lyle know? Erik wondered. It's a mystery that disturbs Erik even in his sleep, a mystery he will need only until the morning to uncover. The tragic news about Andy is hurling towards him like a terrible wind. I enter the prison that Saturday, frightened, not knowing what to expect. Erik has been taken to a different facility and is already waiting for me in the booth behind the glass. He is thin and still unshaven, but his eyes faintly glow. Gone is the joyous smile he wore years ago in the hole. He looks shaken but strong. My relief at seeing him can't be contained. Thank God, are the only words that come to mind. I press my hand against the window and lift the phone to my ear. He presses his hand to mine on the far side of the glass and says hi. The circumstances are so jarring. We need to regain a sense of each other. I still don't know about the trauma Erik experienced during the past week and a half, but it's evident he has been in a pitched battle of some sort. And when prisoners battle against the administration, the deck is always stacked against them. Sadly, he has no idea how truly hard this time has been. He doesn't know about Andy. He says, "I've missed you very much. It seems like a year since I've been able to hear those words. Just seeing him purges so much pain within me. Erik, you look terrible. Are you alright?" He smiles. "No, I'm not alright. Tell me you're happy." "I'm happy now." His smile brightens, and I feel his energy expand through the glass. "Okay, now I'm alright. Tell me what's going on, Erik." He explains that he has no real sense of what's going on other than that he had nothing to do with an attempted escape. He asks me if I believe him. I borrow the newspaper from the office desk and show him the headlines from the Metro section, where bold letters declare, "Folsom escape plot, Erik Menendez not involved," wife says. "Besides," I say, "why would you ever leave me when I'm the best thing that's ever happened to you?" "You're teasing, but it's true." He presses his forehead against the glass to get physically closer to me. "I rely on you for strength. I gather that strength during the worst times, and it lifts me during the good ones." I press my forehead against his. I wish I could feel his touch. We share a few minutes of silence. Then Erik says, "I got a strange letter from Lyle. When did he find out about my situation?" "Thursday." "See, that is strange. In his letter, he referred to a dark day that happened last week, the day they put me in isolation. He said it was devastating and that he felt helpless." "What was he talking about?" "There is no way past this now, I know. There's no way to shield this pain from him." His eyes meet mine, in that inexplicable way in which two people that have come to know each other so well no longer need words to communicate. Erik senses a pain I don't want to share. My gaze fails. Oh God, I don't want to hurt him like this. I open my mouth to speak, but I have no will to form the words from my lips. I look at him, and then look away. I see a change come over him. His eyes are very still, watching, but he says nothing. I close my eyes and say, "Something's happened, Erik." My eyes water. I'd give anything to be able to hold him. "Mama?" he says softly. I don't even question how he knows someone has passed. I lift my red eyes, and my look tells him that it's not his grandmother. She was the obvious assumption. Everyone else would be too young. Lyle's strange words come back to him. He'd written of a black day, of being wounded, helpless. Lyle's poem had seemed out of proportion at the time, but now the memory of his words cut through him. His whole body stills. "Andy?" he says, in a voice no louder than a whisper. It's not a question. Somehow he knows. My gaze softens. I just stare at him, allowing my compassion to wrap around him. And in that moment, his mind grasped what his heart and soul already knew. His dear friend is gone. His pain is electric. The glass can't contain it. He cries out. He pushes off the ledge and backs against the far wall, as if to physically repel the truth of it. His face crumbles. He slides to the floor, hands shielding his eyes. "Erik!" He does not respond. He does not look up. He does nothing but grieve for his lost friend. I call to him over and over again, frantic at first, then gently. His sad eyes turn green when he cries. After several minutes, he slowly recovers and comes back to the phone. His head rests against the glass. I feel so helpless. I can do nothing but watch him. He doesn't sob, but his tears roll freely. He stumbles over the memories of his life with Andy, and we recall the obvious sadness Andy was feeling at our wedding. Erik insists on blaming himself. "One more victim," he says, crestfallen. "This is my fault." By the end of our visit, I've soothed him somewhat and gotten him to smile, but his deep sorrow is only beginning to sink in. A pain will never be erased, only eased by years. Soon our time is up. He is handcuffed and returned to his cell. I leave even more worried for him than before I arrived. Over the past 13 years, he has lost everything. And what has he gained, I tell myself? He has gained me and Talia, along with an even more important spiritual growth and dependence on God. It is the soul's journey through pain, eager to grow, that gives our lives meaning. Erik has taught me this, but the cleansing feels like it is crushing us. Spiritual purpose doesn't absolve us from our real human sorrow. Perhaps there's a way beyond it, but I'm not there yet. We will just have to hang on and try to give love to others even in the worst of times, especially in the worst of times. In isolation, there is nothing Erik can do but surrender to his pain. He's finally given writing material and books now. We write to each other every day. Despite a complete lack of evidence, he is not released from the hole. Weeks pass. Doc is concerned with the course of events and meets with the assistant to the inspector general. He asks for an intervention on Erik's behalf. None comes. The news worsens. In February, a United States District Court issues a denial of Erik's appeal. I learn the news on my own and immediately begin making phone calls. It is time to reach into the bulk of my financial reserve and hire the attorney he deserves, the attorney we deserve. His life is my own. Hiring the attorney leaves me in a deteriorating financial situation, but his appeal is the most important thing we will face the outcome together. By now, I am horrified by what is transpiring within Erik. In the span of 21 days, he has lost one friend in prison, now lost his dearest family member, and he has been kept in the hole on serious charges. What else can go wrong? I should know better than to ask such questions. In February, the last death occurs. The son of my close friend Renee, 18-year-old Sack, falls off a balcony. As kids so often believe, he must have thought he was invincible. He was at a party. He tried to jump from one balcony to the next. He slipped and lost his grip. His spirit left his body on impact. Renee is destroyed. A friend of mine and Renee's calls me to give me the news. I call Renee. She is in agony, sobbing, moaning, and unable to function. That feeling is too familiar and hollows me out, but now I cannot be there for her like she was for me. I am 2,000 miles away. I spend time with her on the phone. I cannot comfort her at all. I have Jeff bring a book to her that I believe may help her with her grieving process. It's called Talking to Heaven by James Van Praagh. She reads it for some comfort at night when the pain is unbearable. I am tired of spiritual lessons, of holding on to faith and believing that all of the sorrows in the world yield some kind of mystical purpose. My heart is weary. My soul longs for peace of home in the spirit world. When people talk about some far-off underworld or hell, I can't help but shake my head. What need would there be for that place when demons swirl in these festing grounds of misery? This world is our fire. The one thing I hold on to throughout his entire time in the hole is the joyous and easy bond we share. It's precious to me. I love this man's heart and soul. He is my best friend. Dr. Phil has created this kind of love, a softer place to fall. And that's what we are to one another. He's my safe harbor and shell into which I pour myself. Our spirituality has become the core of our union, and during our visits, we share it during the still and silent spaces between us. We spend the other half of our visit finding a way to move beyond his grim conditions, to fill each other with the love we so desperately need. The thick glass between us is a tremendous restriction, but we still find a way to intimately connect with simple words and glances. For 4 days every week, I am at his side. I do not miss a visit. 2.5 months later, Erik is officially exonerated and released from the hole. He is 20 pounds lighter and pale. I visit him that first weekend. He is waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs. His body is leaner, but his eyes are sparkling. He lifts me into his arms and swings me around. As usual, I push away from him and tell him not to do that, but lower his lips to mine. It feels so good, like a ray of sun after months of rain. The joys in the midst of the storm become sweeter. That's how life is, isn't it? The tears make the smiles and kisses more precious. Those 3 months seemed like forever. I need a long break from pain. There is no way to know that these last few months were but the cold wind before the real storm.